It was a quiet Tuesday morning in the suburban neighborhood of Willow Creek Estates. Sunlight spilled over manicured lawns, the faint sound of sprinklers ticking in the distance. On the corner of Maple Drive, a small American flag fluttered on the front porch of a modest, single-story home. Inside that home, James Carter, a 42-year-old decorated Army veteran, was brewing his morning coffee. His golden retriever, Max, sat patiently beside him, wearing his bright blue service vest with a patch that read, "Service Dog, Do Not Pet." James had served 15 years in the military, including 2 tours in Afghanistan. A roadside blast had left him with a permanent limp and severe PTSD. Max wasn't just a pet, he was James's lifeline. The dog could sense panic attacks before they happened, wake James from nightmares, and guide him through crowded spaces. This morning felt like any other until there was a sharp knock at the door. Scene 1. The knock. James opened the door to find Carol Simmons, the HOA president. She was in her late 50s, always dressed like she was attending a board meeting, even on weekends. In her hand was a white envelope. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," she said, her tone overly formal. "We need to discuss an urgent violation of the HOA regulations." James frowned. "Violation? I pay my dues on time. What's this about?" Carol handed him the envelope. "It's about that," she said, pointing to Max, who sat wagging his tail. James opened the letter. His eyes scanned the bold words. "Notice of violation. Unauthorized animal on property." His stomach dropped. "This has to be a mistake," James said, holding the paper up. "Max is a service dog. He's protected under federal law." Carol gave a tight smile. "Our HOA rules are very clear. No animals over 30 pounds are allowed. That's to maintain neighborhood harmony." James's voice hardened. "Federal law overrides your HOA pet policy. Service animals are not considered pets." Carol didn't flinch. "We'll see about that. You have 14 days to remove the dog from the premises, or we will begin eviction proceedings." With that, she turned and walked away, heels clicking on the sidewalk. Over the next few days, James couldn't shake the anxiety. Every time he saw Carol's SUV drive by, he felt a wave of anger and dread. Max stayed close, sensing his tension. At night, James's nightmares returned. Gunfire, sandstorms, the blast that changed his life. Each time, Max would nudge him awake, resting his head gently on James's chest. James started keeping a notebook, documenting every interaction with the HOA. His military training had taught him to be thorough. He researched the Americans with Disabilities Act and Fair Housing Act, highlighting every section that protected his right to have Max. A week later, James attended the HOA board meeting. The room smelled of stale coffee and copier toner. Folding chairs were arranged in neat rows, and a long table sat at the front where the board members were already seated. Carol sat in the center, gavel in hand. James waited patiently through agenda items about lawn heights and mailbox colors. Finally, under new business, Carol said, "Mr. Carter, regarding your animal—" "Service dog," James corrected. "Regarding your dog," Carol continued, "the board has voted unanimously to uphold the violation notice." James leaned forward. "You can't override federal law. The ADA is clear. Service animals are allowed anywhere their handler can go. Max is not a pet. He's medical equipment." One of the board members, Greg, shifted uncomfortably. "James, we have to be consistent with our rules." James's voice rose. "Your rules don't supersede the Constitution or the law." Carol's tone turned icy. "If you choose to defy this board, there will be consequences." Within days, James started receiving letters, fines for non-compliance, threats of legal action, even a notice saying his access to community facilities was suspended. His neighbors grew nervous. Some whispered support but didn't want to get involved. Others sided with the HOA, afraid that exceptions would ruin the neighborhood. One night, James caught someone taking pictures of his house and yard. The next morning, he found a note taped to his door. "Rules are rules. Get rid of the mutt." James decided enough was enough. He contacted Lisa Grant, an adelie who specialized in disability rights. Lisa was fierce. "They're not just wrong, they're violating federal law and harassing you. We'll hit them with everything: ADA, FHA, state civil rights statutes." We filed a formal complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice and the state's housing authority. Lisa also sent the HOA a cease and desist letter warning of a federal lawsuit. When the HOA received the letter, Carol called an emergency meeting. Scene 6. The public battle. Word spread quickly. Local news caught wind of the story. HOA tries to evict disabled veteran's service dog. Reporters showed up at James's lawn. Cameras rolled as he stood next to Max, explaining how the dog had saved his life countless times. Public opinion shifted overnight. Neighbors who had stayed silent began speaking up. Someone started a petition to remove Carol as HOA president. It gathered over 300 signatures in 2 days. At the next HOA meeting, the room was packed. Even people from outside the neighborhood came to watch. Carol tried to maintain control. We are here to inform you," Lisa interrupted, "that your actions are illegal, discriminatory, and punishable by significant fines. My client will not surrender his service dog, and if you continue this harassment, you will be held personally liable." The tension was electric. Greg, the board member who had looked uneasy before, finally spoke. "I vote we rescind the violation notice and issue a public apology." One by one, the other board members agreed, until Carol was outnumbered. The HOA dropped all fines, erased the violation from James's record, and issued a written apology. But it didn't stop there. Carol was voted out as president at the next election. James kept his home, and more importantly, Max stayed right by his side. Months later, James would often see Carol walking alone past his house, avoiding eye contact. The neighborhood was quieter now, friendlier, and every time someone asked about Max, James would smile and say, "He's not just a dog, he's my hero."